Hello, hello. Hey, y'all. It's me, SBU Live from South Africa. And for my South African family, it's Sabu. Today, I'm here with a very special guest, Dr. Asad. He is a interculturalist. And I just had to have him join me today to cover this topic.
Thank you so much.
Yourself.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm Asad. Yeah, we'll stop there.
All right. So listen, guys. The reason why we're actually covering this topic is because we are African Americans, right? And we are living in South Africa. And I don't know if anybody even asked us our own opinion about what happened in the White House, Oval Office, last Wednesday with the South African president and the man himself, Donald Trump. Did anybody ask you?
No, but I think this is the perfect opportunity for us to speak because it definitely involves both of our presidents.
Absolutely.
Kind of, right?
It's kind of crazy, right? Because when you thought you left there, you end up being right back there.
Mm-hmm.
Now we got an opinion on both. So listen, I don't know about you, but I was there. I felt like I was there. Did you actually watch it live or?
No, I didn't watch it live. I caught a YouTube version of it and watched it there.
All right,
the next day.
It was something. We actually caught it live, and did you actually think that Donald Trump would have actually, committed to such a show?
Absolutely. Yeah, we watched him with Zelensky.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, so I was expecting that when I first heard that President Ramsphosa was headed to the White House. I was like, I didn't even think they would have that
meeting.
On television, but recorded. But when I realized it would be in front of the cameras, or at least they would have a public portion, I knew, Donald Trump comes from reality TV. This is where this man comes from. So the expectation was that he would showboat. And to his credit, he could have been far worse than he was, but he was as bad as, as he needed to be.
Okay, so you saying he didn't disappoint?
No, he is exactly who he's always been, and he did exactly what you would expect him to do.
Well, see, I think about that a little different because in 2016, that was a different Donald Trump than is today, somewhat different. Not completely, but I expected that from 2016. I kind of expected what we have now to be a little bit more politically correct.
Why?
I don't know. He's coming off a bit more political now, more presidential. Back then he would say,
Donald Trump?
Yeah,
Does Donald Trump?
Listen.
We talk about the same person?
He is.
Nah.
He really is. Think about it. Back then, he was that man that got in the middle of Times Square and said, I could shoot somebody right now, kill him in the middle of Times Square and get away with it. I think he forgot that he said that. Because that man now we're seeing, he's still of that nature, but I don't think he would actually say things like that.
Oh, I absolutely believe he would say things like that. He just made a quip about the N-word the other day during a Fox News interview.
Okay, I hear that.
Yeah, he was referring to nuclear weapons, but he's sitting there talking to he's sitting there talking to a Fox News host, and he was like, you know what that means? That means the N-word. You know what the N-word means, right? And the reporter's like, the nuclear. And he was like, yeah, I'm glad you got yourself out of that trouble. So it's like, this is still the same. This is the guy who was just sitting with the head of state of the Ukraine and berated him like a 13-year-old, scolded him like a father talking to a 13-year-old child. I wouldn't expect anything different. So what I will say is that he didn't scold Ramaphosa or berate him. He tried to embarrass him in front of the international community with the videos and the documents of, ditto paper or whatever he decided to pull out as evidence of white genocide. And that is a form of belittling and an embarrassment. But he didn't, scream and holler at him like, raise his voice.
Okay, so going back to what you're saying, you're right. Trump is Trump, but I don't think Ramaphosa did actually give him an opportunity to be berated or so much. He handled it quite like a head of state. I mean, he did. He was politically correct. I do understand and think that he should have been a little bit more a matter of fact when he noticed that these things that were being said and the videos were not of South Africa, whatever he picked up on. He should have been a more,
Yeah, so I think that's where his advisors and those who were around Ramaphosa failed him. The video that Trump showed of those crosses and all, Elon Musk had posted that 2 or 3 days, prior to that meeting, and he posted it a few times. The advisors, President Ramaphosa's advisors, should have been aware of that and been able to debunk that claim in front of the international community when Trump said, "Hey, turn the lights down, play this, look at this video." He should have been able to debunk that then. I think also when Trump called for the arrest of EFF leader Julius Malema, this man should be arrested or whatever have you. He should have reminded him about, free speech, which is one of the tenets of American society as well as South African society. And what does free speech mean? What does it mean to say that, I may not agree with you, but I would defend to death your right to say what you need to say. So what you want to say. So I think there should have been some pushback there. And even if Ramaphosa vehemently disagrees with Malema, he should have defended his right to say it, contextualize what, that song "Killed the Boer" or that chant actually means. So it was some things that I think could have been done much better. But overall, as heads of state, politics is a strange thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I do think that he should have been definitely, loud about the fact that he's not in agreement with Julius.
Yeah.
He did say it, but it was more like a passing.
Yeah.
We don't agree with that party, and
Right.
And he did not say, I mean, as far as the crosses go, he only stated that, where is that?
Right.
He just wasn't in his face. It's almost like he didn't care if he believed him or not. I think he actually said that too. He said, "Well, I've said what I'm going to say."
Right.
So,
he did say that. Yeah, he said, "I've already kind of answered that." But the thing is that everyone hasn't heard your answer, President Ramaphosa. Again, as I stated on the video that we did on our kind of reaction to it, is that when you are in front of those cameras, your audience is not Donald Trump. It is the entire world. And what happens is that a lie can become the truth if repeated over enough. So when you're in front of the international community and the President of the United States has charged or made a claim against you that your nation is committing genocide, there needs to be a soundbite, a clip that is firm, that the rest of the media and everyone can use. This is Ramaphosa, denying this claim and clearing up this claim. We don't have that clip from that interaction.
No, you have a slight no, because Trump even said, but if they take the land, you allow them to, if they kill the farmer, you allow them to take the land or confiscate the land. Yeah. He was like, no. I mean, right. I'm thinking to myself, now that was just supposed to be a grab there.
Right.
Take the land. That's what we hear about. That's what it's all about. Don't allow him just to say that and let that be the last thing that was said. Because
what happens is that there are people, so right now there are people who are kind of debunking the claims. I'm sure we're going to get to that. Debunking the claims that Trump has made. And we'll think, it's been cleared. But everybody's not going to see that. Everyone is not going to see the debunked claims, and you'll have people somewhere in Eastern Europe and somewhere in India and China who will still believe that there's a white genocide going on. Or matter of fact, you'll have people in Iowa, North Dakota, wherever have you, who will still believe that there's a white genocide going on in South Africa. And what happens? If there's enough people that believe that, then when you say, hey, maybe we should, put in a new president in the South. Maybe we should, lead a coup, because the CIA and the United States government is good for leading coups against people who don't fall in line with their vision of the world. So if it happens, then no one will say anything. They'll be like, oh yeah, they had to do that because there was that white genocide taking place. over there.
You're absolutely right, because I actually seen an article that has been titled, hopefully Ramaphosa resigns. They have already put that out there.
Yeah.
So that's a very sad case. But coming from two individuals that live in South Africa now and have lived in the United States, we understand living here that this is not what's going on.
Right.
And the message that the West has for Africa it's been a terrible message from the beginning. But we were actually fortunate enough to be able to come and see for ourselves to see what South Africa actually offers. And then there's other places in Africa too that you can actually live and be fine. But listen, but for right now, I think what we're going to do is we're going to show those videos, and we're going to show that those videos have been debunked completely. And we're going to talk about what we think should happen now. I'm going to tell you what I think. Anyway, so let's go ahead and play those videos, sir.
Death. Death.
President Trump has made several false claims about violence against white farmers in South Africa in a tense meeting with the country's president. He played this video on a big screen in the Oval Office, saying it showed burial sites for over 1,000 white farmers. But it doesn't show burial sites at all. The crosses, in fact, were part of a protest in 2020 against the murder of 2 white farmers who were shot dead on their farm. Trump also held up a series of articles which he said were evidence of killings. He pointed to this blog post and said it showed white farmers being buried. But the image isn't from South Africa. It's actually from a report about women being buried in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Trump has repeatedly made a discredited claim that there's genocide of white farmers in South Africa. The country has one of the highest murder rates in the world. There were more than 26,000 murders last year, according to police figures. 44 were of people within the farming community, and 8 of those were of farmers. The figures aren't broken down by race, but they clearly don't show a genocide of white farmers as Trump claims. Earlier this year, a South African judge dismissed the idea of genocide in the country as clearly imagined.
That's what Ramaphosa needed. He needed those numbers and figures. Data matters. He should have been able to say, no, we have 26,000 murders, 44 are farm-related, and 8 were only of actual farmers. Where is this genocide? That is the rebuke and the rebuttal that was needed, the data. And he just didn't present that.
No, and if we want to get really down to it, if you got 26,000 people that are being murdered in a country where 90% of those people are black.
There's an argument to be made about a black genocide.
So we're talking about non-farmers didn't need any help going.
Right, exactly.
Non-farmers. So listen, so let's talk about that for just a minute. Okay, so the idea was the refugee status was supposed to be given to farmers because of the genocide on their lives. Why are the 49 that were chosen thus far, they're non-farmers?
Well, we know it's not about that. This is white supremacy at work, and that's just how it works. There are nations right now on the continent and around the world. In fact, he just met with Netanyahu, who is actually committing a genocide in Palestine right now. And he didn't play any videos there. So he didn't stop and turn off the lights and say, look at all these Palestinian babies that you're blowing up and killing. Look at the hospital that you blew. So we know this is about white supremacy and painting a picture of this. So I think what we must remember is that the United States was one of the last countries to get on board to stand against apartheid here in South Africa. One of the very last countries. It is a nation that was its own apartheid, right? Jim Crow. And South Africa has always had this blemish and will always carry this blemish in the mind of white supremacists as the African nation or the African group of people who took the white nation, right? Because South Africa was the white bastion here on the continent of Africa. It was, the diamond of Africa for white people. And they took this nation or took control of the political power here in this country without a bloody coup, without, completely destroying the economy or the infrastructure, right? I've always said it is a world-class African-led nation or black-led nation or one of the only. And white Americans and white supremacy and Europeans throughout the world who adhere to white supremacy will always have this distaste in their mouth for South Africa. right? So this is another way of blemishing its reputation. Oh yeah, the white genocide 30 years later, the white genocide should have taken place in 91, 92.
Before apartheid.
But before
ended.
apartheid ended.
But listen, it's interesting that you would say that America was the last to come aboard, because I did hear, I read an article or something where the Afrikaans and Europeans, or the Dutch and Europeans, they actually went to America to get instruction on how to put together this apartheid,
System of
this
apartheid.
system.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, show us how you doing the Jim Wayne, call it Jim Wayne. Show us how this was managed back then.
America is the best at oppressing a group of people, and that group of people happens to be black people. The Nazis learned from the United States. Think about that. We vilify Hitler, who deserves to be vilified. But if he learned from the U.S. on how to oppress and segregate a group of people, right? Then what does that make the United States, if not the greatest of all villains? The Bible says, ye are of your father, the devil. He is a liar and a murderer and abode not in the truth. And that is the United States.
Yeah, that is. Definitely, I could see that America, because they were the leaders, and they taught people how to oppress, and now they want it to be over with. So you are saying that what Donald Trump is doing now with the 49 that is actually over, quote, refugee, is white supremacists for what purpose?
I really think it has to do with Elon Musk and that Starlink stuff. I think he doesn't want the BEE, and he doesn't want, to have to follow the laws of South Africa. So this is a way of leveraging lies to maybe get the South African government to either make an exception for Starlink or to even change some of the BE affirmative action type of policies and laws that are in place here in South Africa.
I can definitely understand why he would want to change that, because he does want the business here. I understand that, and I do understand the laws. But, so how far do you think this is going to go? Because I think they said it was about 70,000 applications that were submitted as far as the refugee goes. I think they need to check in with the white people in the United States and see if they really want these Afrikaners, because white nationalism in the minds of most Americans is white American nationalism and white American supremacy. Although there will be, collaboration and partnership with other white nations, I don't know if they will be welcomed with those open arms that they think. 49 is one thing. You can easily disperse them. But you start talking 10, 20,000, 30,000, I'm not sure the white Americans in Iowa and North Dakota look at white South African farmers as the same as they are. I mean, they're white. Right? So you're saying you don't think they'll be embraced?
Not all of them.
No, I think there will be an issue because, well, not even only with the white Americans, with a lot of other people, because how far do we go as far as taking care of them?
They're not going to put them in other communities. They're not going to bring them to Atlanta or New Orleans or Jackson, Mississippi. They're going to go to places that are majority white, and they would probably end up in places that are very liberal, because that will be the white Americans who will probably take them in, right? Who will probably embrace them. You start putting them in a very conservative, states like Texas and rural Texas, they will not see those white people as the same. They will not see Afrikaners as the same white people, right?
But, after a while, if they end up staying there, they're going to migrate and go and do whatever they want to do.
Easily integrate,
so
though.
They may end up in an Atlanta. Considering that they're liberal.
Right.
They'll taste that milk and honey and decide to live a little.
Maybe so.
End up anywhere.
We don't know. I don't mean...
I don't even care at this point. I'm just saying.
Yeah, really.
I'm just wondering.
And the thing about it is they are very similar situation to those of us who have moved back to the continent. Although they may not be seen the same today, tomorrow, and when I say tomorrow, I mean the next generation, their children marry a white American. They have now totally integrated, because you cannot distinguish whiteness from whiteness in many ways. And the same over here. I have two sons. My sons marry a South African woman. They have now integrated fully into to South African society, and they just become another black South African.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you said that. There were a lot of children. There were a lot of children there, but they seemed to be under 5. So that definitely actually, most of the people, there were some that appeared to be over 40, but most of them seemed to be under 40 in that
I saw
group.
Gucci luggage and like Louis Vuitton. How you a refugee with Louis Vuitton luggage? Make
you
that
really
make
see
sense.
that?
No, I'm serious. I saw expensive luggage. And
I didn't see that. Wow.
yeah, I want to know how you suffering with Gucci luggage or whatever it was. It was name brand luggage. I want to know what type of refugee. You know, refugees come with a plastic bag. You know,
Shirt, nothing else. That's it.
Bro, they liars.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know, it's definitely very interesting, and it's something to see. I haven't figured out in my mind what Trump is actually doing, but considering those videos, and there's just several videos out there that have debunked everything that he said, video included. Do you think he'll come back and apologize, or be like, look, let me shake your hand again and come over and play golf? Do you think he'll make it to the G20? Because, on one side, he talking like he ain't.
Yeah, I thought they wasn't coming, so who knows?
But he left saying that, yeah, he may come. So, do you think he'll make it? Considering.
Yeah, I think he will.
I think an apology is in order.
No, I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay, because what we're doing is we're blaming the South African president. But listen, we're blaming him for not being so aggressive or assertive, but all of South Africa is on a vibe. It ain't now.
Right.
He said a little bit. So that is just the vibe of South Africa. I mean, it has to come from somewhere. So he's really it's relaxed over here. It really is. So I'm not mad at him, but considering this is he's a head of state, it should have been better than that. But Trump owes him an apology. It needs to be some more conversation, because now someone asked the question, who are you going to believe? What does it take to get you to see that there's no genocide? And he took that question from him and answered it. So now it's out there that.
And I think that was a strategic mistake on Ramsphosa's part. He should have allowed Trump to answer that question, because now you have a criteria. This is what needs to be said for me to prove, for me to believe that there is no genocide. And then you present that criteria. You meet that criteria right there in front of the international community. But do I believe that Trump will apologize? There is no evidence of white genocide in South Africa. Yet there is a plethora of evidence of African Americans being enslaved in the United States, and we have yet to receive an apology.
Right.
And that's not just a Trump thing. We had a Negro in office, Obama. He ain't apologized. He could have made an executive order to the United States officially apologize. I think there was. Let me not be inaccurate. I think Bill Clinton had some sort of apology, but we need that apology to come with a check.
Okay. You want reparations?
Absolutely.
How much you think?
I mean, we got to add it up.
Okay.
We got to add it up.
You. Sounds good to me, but I don't think that's coming from Trump, no.
No, we know that's not coming
now,
from
Trump did say he'd give you $5,000.
From the government of efficiency or whatever, Dodge.
Who knows? Nah. But anyway, that this is interesting to see, though. But we got one more video where Trump has been debunked, and I'm still waiting for an apology. So listen, so all of you out there who think that we are the liberals and we're Democrats, that may not be the case. And it's not, look.
I'm definitely not the case for me. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican.
That's what it is.
Yeah,
I just couldn't bring myself to vote for neither one. So that's actually what's going on here. We would just prefer this to truth. And we live here in South Africa. And, I understand that they were saying that, the news wouldn't report it. The news is fake news, is trying to hide it. What I've seen of the news over here is very up close and personal of anything that goes on incorrect. Murders, exactly. But let me say this, put this disclaimer. I don't even know if I should call it a disclaimer, but everyone needs to know that murder is serious.
Absolutely.
We're not in any way trying to belittle or take away or, a farmer, white man, black person, whatever. It's bad. And we don't want someone to think that there's no compassion or empathy towards those who lose a loved one. So just get that out of your head. But it's more important that you tell the truth.
Right.
And, to say that something like that is happening in a country that is so beautiful, not saying that it could not happen, because there are some things that are going on.
Well, I mean, here's the danger of it, when you make up those type of lies. You get the Iraq War. Remember Bush told us that Iraq had weapons of mass production? Oh, I'm sorry, weapons of destruction.
Got it.
Right? Weapons of mass destruction. And, 20 years later, they're like, oh, there's never any weapons.
Right.
But you
They're
killed,
fighting.
you killed so many people. You
Because?
killed Saddam Hussein or whatever have you. And that's what happens. A lie can lead to the death of an entire nation.
Yeah, it's interesting that you would say that too, because you're exactly right. If someone actually thinks that that's going on, there could be war here.
Mm-hmm. And
Coming
I can't
to protect.
afford war here.
I can't either. We just moved. Like it really matters.
That's a no good.
No, we're not. That's not good. So I'm calling for an apology or something that says we're in good standing. But yeah, you know what though? What is exactly do you think Ramaphosa actually wanted for the meeting? What would you think his outcome was? What do you think his angle was? Because it definitely wasn't.
Well, there's been a shaky relationship prior to even Trump getting into office. The former U.S. ambassador Reuben Brigadier, who's a brother, made a claim. This is under the Biden administration. He made a claim that South Africa was selling arms to Russia or whatever have you, and turned out to be false. That lost a lot of goodwill between the two nations. South Africa brought the ICJ case against Israel. And its genocide in Palestine, and with Israel being such a close partner to the United States, that left a bad taste. And those things are, it's the ICJ case was absolutely right? Israel is committing genocide in Palestine right now as we speak. So, but with that being said, so there was a shaky relationship, and then you get Trump. And Trump and his white genocide claim is just like, oh, hey, hold up. We need to sit down and talk, because I believe the United States is South Africa's second largest trading partner. And, I understand as a head of state, you have to make sure you have someone to trade with. You have to think about your economy. You have to think about jobs and employment and how all of this is 600 some odd U.S. companies operating in South Africa. So I understand that. But I would hope that in the near future, all African nations will be independent enough that their dignity, that their pride, and that truth trumps trade.
Yeah, definitely. And I did think he said 600 companies are currently. Wow. All right, so listen, let's take a look at this last video.
Through his paperwork, he says death, death, death on each page. He says that these were all published in the last few days, and that one headline, and that all the headlines show white farmers being buried. Now, at one point in particular, he held up a headline to the camera here. We can see the headline clearly. It says, "Let's talk about Africa, which is where tribalism takes you," published by a blog called The American Thinker. There's also a thumbnail here of bodies being buried as well. Now, this article that he's holding is still online. It's pretty easily findable. And unlike what he said about this all being in the last few days, this blog post is not. It's dated February 13th earlier this year. As for the image that he said there shows white farmers being buried, this is not even in South Africa. This is actually an image of aid workers burying bodies in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Now, how do we know that? Well, it's pretty clear, linked here at the bottom in the blog post itself. It says image, YouTube screen grab. Pretty easy to click on the link, and it takes us straight there to a report published by Indian media WION using Reuters footage showing women being buried following a mass jailbreak in Goma. So not South Africa, Yinka, but the DRC. And it is a story that is months old as well, unlike what Trump claimed in his meeting.
And Vedika, Trump also was very...
All right, so you know what? I didn't have this thought before, but my thought now is Trump knew that was not in South Africa. He knew that the whole time going in. So he planned this. He planned this attack. I know y'all been saying
he's media savvy. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No. You're saying what I'm saying. He
Yeah.
planned this knowing that he was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
He definitely should be called on the table. Because he knew that was not in South Africa. He knew that was Congo.
I mean, you have all of these, and J.D. Vance went to Yale. You have all these intelligent people around you, and you missed the DRC versus South Africa. No, that was absolutely planned. He knew what he was expecting was Ramaphosa to offer a stronger pushback, a stronger rebuke of that, and he was going to give me that paperwork. Where is it? You see this? This is white death, and just use those props. But that's what white supremacy does. It lies. It makes up stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
So when we say that Ramaphosa should have been more prepared, how do you actually prepare for a lie? Because I mean, you showing up something that didn't even happen here. He may not be president. The president of South Africa may not be social media savvy. Of course, he's probably heard about that and saw it, but to remember a pic that came out in February, he may have not recalled it in that moment. So now you're showing a lie, and what am I supposed to be prepared for? How do I prepare for that?
No, that's a great question. I think that paperwork, because he wouldn't be prepared for. It's impossible to be prepared for someone showing you a picture of the DRC saying this is South Africa, because this is a lie. What he could have been prepared for, though, is a clear statement, data to back up his statement, right? As well as that video footage, because the video footage was reposted several times by Elon Musk as evidence of this white jet. Those crosses. He should have been prepared for that. He should have been able to debunk that. When he turned around and looked at the thing, where is this? Do you know? No, you're supposed to have that already. Like, oh, we saw Elon post that. We saw Elon post that 2 days ago. And we want to clarify this was not a genocide. These are not grave sites. In fact, those crosses are not even there anymore. This was a protest. To explain exactly what it is.
Yeah, he definitely could have done that. But, okay, we never know exactly how people want to show up. I actually, the more I look at it, think that he handled it the best way, because he even said, so it kind of makes me think he's really smart, because he said at another interview later on that day is that, I bet y'all was expecting drama. And I wasn't for that.
No, what I wanted to see, and I sent this clip to a few people last night. There's this great interview, and I thought it was William Buckley, but it was another show where James Baldwin is confronted by someone about racism, and he gives this eloquent yet composed response that the white audience, and this is like the 60s, this is right after Dr. King's death, in fact, like they had to applaud because it was so eloquent, it was so composed, and it was so logical and well thought out, even though it was an impromptu response. That's what was needed in that moment. There are certain moments where words can change like the trajectory of the entire world, right? When Dr. King says, I would want to live in a world where my children are judged by the content of their, not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. What person anywhere in the world will say, I don't want my children judged by the content of their character, right? So it's moments like that. I think there was, and again, I think this is not a knock on President Ramaphosa as an administrator or as a politician or as a leader of the nation, but he was not prepared to respond in a way that could have really, it could have projected him onto the world stage as who is this phenomenal leader that South Africa has, because he gave such a phenomenal response. I promise you, Mandela sitting in that moment would have responded vastly differently than that. They wouldn't even play with Mandela like that. Because he had too much. He had the wisdom, and I'm not saying, again, he had the wisdom and he had the words, right? I remember this interview with, I think it's Ted Koppel, when Nelson Mandela made his visit, and someone asked about his relationship with Cuba and Libya, and he says, America seems to think that their enemies must be our enemies. It was just I don't know if that's the exact quote, but it was a very intelligent way to answer that question, and I think Mandela may have handled that vastly differently than Ramaphosa. But anyway, I think
Ramaphosa actually said, though, he was taking, taking the
lessons
lessons from Mandela as in to keep peace and how to handle a situation. But okay, but I actually think he did very well. I get it because you can't plan for a lie.
True.
It's just very hard to do so. But I do agree with you when he should have definitely made sure that everyone understood that that's not the case. Genocide is not the case in South Africa at this time.
And I think the DA. Agriculture guy.
Yes, he did.
I think he could have been a little more firm on that. This is not. It was actually Johann Rupert, the millionaire guy, who made it clear that this is not about race. This is about crime. I thought he did an excellent job of clarifying that. But the DA, Department of Minister of Agriculture, he was a little shaky to me. Like, you can be clear. There's no genocide. That's a pretty simple statement. Mr. President, there's no genocide, there's no white genocide in South Africa.
He seemed a little upset, actually, to me. I felt like he was a little bit unnerved. And it could have been because he felt the ambush.
Maybe so.
It could have been that. Because if you've been with someone all day and y'all been shaking hands, y'all been laughing and everything is cool, and you go into a meeting and then all of a sudden you might be like, what?
Right.
And you still got to be politically correct. You can't act out. So
right.
It could be a little unhinged.
And I think the golfer, and I know that golfer is friends with Trump. They had two white golfers.
It was three there on the left, so you're talking about the first two, I think.
Yeah. So Rupert is the millionaire. I don't know if he's a golfer, but the other two are golfers. And one was like, yes, my mom has been attacked and blah, blah, blah. But he didn't make it clear that that's just crime. He in many ways insinuated that it was some sort of, that there's some truth to this white genocide stuff. And I didn't think, maybe he should have vetted the white folk he brought with him. What you gonna say when they ask you a question?
No, I think they all were caught off guard, and I think it's just like people hanging on to, we can find a million things that Trump has done and said that are so incorrect, but you cannot. Some people will be like, no, they're going to defend Trump to the end. They're going to have something like, come on now.
Right.
Yeah, that is what it is. And I think that they were a part of that also.
Yeah.
Even though they are a part of a South African government, they were not prepared to say, Trump, you just dirty wrong, you shouldn't be doing this.
There are also two white people who grew up during apartheid, which they said themselves, we grew up during apartheid.
Bad time, yeah.
And that's, when they start talking about make America great again, it's always a reference to the past. That is the good old days. When they say we grew up during apartheid, they think that's the good old days. So you got to be very careful who you, could have been some maybe you could got some VIT students or something, some UJ students.
I'm just glad Julius didn't go.
Julius was present. He made his presence felt.
Didn't he?
Yeah, he was on the videos.
Isn't that something you would bring? That's so odd. That was. Anyway, this is why we're here, the African Americans that live in South Africa now and actually have lived in the United States. We just wanted to come and speak to you guys for just a little bit and to share with you what our thoughts are, because nobody else cares. But listen, we want to know what you all think. Please, listen, if you haven't come to the channel before and it's your first time here, make sure you leave a comment, and definitely share the video. Thank you so much, Dr. Asad, for coming. If it's anything, make sure you shout out your channel.
Asad Malik, PhD on YouTube. Check it out.
All right, guys. So have a good night.